All right. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Doug Marks and Cynthia Stevens. The assessor today is Cam Wong, and the administrative personnel is Phoebe Graywood. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application and will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order to be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value reclassification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 and 2 on the docket today. Ms. Graywood, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Mr. Wong, please state your full name. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Ken Wong.
Perfect. Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so the first item on today's agenda is 60 Philip Lee Drive for the assessment year 2023. So, Mr. Wong, you can begin on this one.
Okay. The subject property is 60 Philip Lee Drive. The roll number is 040-072-628-20. The assessment year is 2023, and the assessed value is $13,593,000. And sorry, also the file number is 25-2. This is a residential apartment. It's 2 to 4 stories high. It was built in 2019, and it has 64 suites with 48 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a overhead picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4, 5, and 6 is some information on the subject property, along with some interior photos from their website. On page 8 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,389 to get a potential income of $1,067,000. We use a 2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,045,000. And we use a 38% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $645,000. Capped at 4.75%, we have an estimated market value of $13,593,000, which is about $212,000 per unit. On page 9 are some rent comparables, showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. And on the bottom of page 9 are some expense comparables that range from 33 to 42%. This supports the model's expense ratio at 38.26%. On page 10 is some information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 11 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. So this property is a new property, is a new build, and we don't have any financial information to use for valuation purposes. So we've looked to the market for to value this property. The model rents are supported by market rent comparables, and the model expenses at 38% are supported by expense comparables. The model cap rate is also supported by some comparable sales. And the overall value at about $212,000 per unit is supported by market sales that might range from $215,000 to $285,000 per unit. And you can the sale of 2390 McPhillips also supports the assessed value, the current assessed value. So the assessed value is well supported by the market, and it is probably at the lower end of the range. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $13,593,000.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I'm gonna a little bit backwards here. I'm looking. You were talking about sales, page 10. Is that what you were referring to?
Pardon me?
You said that you had market sales page. Are you referring to page 10?
No, I didn't provide any sales except for what was on page 11 in terms of the 2390 McPhillips.
Okay. All right. Sorry, that's what you're referring to. Okay. So 2390 McPhillips, and that was a sale in 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in your description, now I'll go back to the beginning description on page 1. Are you aware that this is a condominium title for the entire site?
I'm not sure. I'm just aware that there are 3 other buildings that are. I'm guessing I believe they're identical, and that those ones, that 3 of the 4 buildings are condominiums. But I believe this one is an apartment building.
Does you don't have the information on the title like this? The tax bill, by the way, will indicate that it is a condominium unit, the entire building, a phase. So my question is, does your model account for a difference in the title rights?
We're treating this as an apartment building.
I'm not asking. We know it's an apartment building. It's a strata title, which means it has different rights. Are you saying that you don't value the rights of a building?
I'm not sure if we're. I'm not 100% sure.
No, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. I'll move on. Um, on page 8, is this all from the model?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. When the model creates the gross potential rent, does that come from mailers?
I believe the information is based off of mailer information that we've gathered from property owners.
Okay, and is that rent based on the information on the page which asks for the rent per unit, or does it come from the financial statements? Do you know?
It would be typically based off of the information from the multifamily, but in situations where the income statement does provide enough information for us to establish a rent, we use information from the income statement as well.
Uh, okay, I've heard other people testify that you take it from the stated request per rent per square foot, rent per unit that's on the and we obviously don't have one of these in front of us to refer to. I think everyone's familiar with them, where the number of units are listed and the rent is listed, and then the next page is the statement. I've heard everyone say that they take the rents from that first page on the units. Are you saying it's also from the statements?
Potentially, yes.
And when they look at adjusting it, how do they treat the incentives?
They typically remove them.
In the model?
Yes.
Are you sure of this? The first time I've ever heard this. I'm questioning you.
That is that is how I would treat it.
Yes, but I agree that you would probably treat it because I think your work is fairly conscientious. But does the modeler treat it that way?
I am not 100% sure.
Okay.
But that's how I myself entered into our system.
Okay. Um, the expense ratio at 37.3. Now, we're going to make this hearing very, very quick. I'm going to just ask you, is this all from the model, the expense ratio? I take it you've already said that, but what is the difference between the expense ratio from this particular reference year as opposed to the previous reference year? And we're going to hear it later today.
Different information.
Different information.
Well, yeah, the information for the current year that we're looking at is 2023, so it would be based off of mailer information from 2021. So for 2025, it would be based off of mailer information from 2023.
Right. So
it's different information.
And I'm skipping ahead to save time here, but for 23, you're at 37.3% expense ratio. For the next one we're going to hear, it's at 38.26%. So about a 1 point change.
I think you're on the wrong year, Mr.
Okay, am I?
Michel. Yes.
I'm looking, I'm looking, the 23 hearing, page 8. I have 37.3%.
I believe that's for 25.
I was looking at the 23 reference year, the reference date 23.
Yes, that's the reference date is 23, but the assessment date is 25. Now we're dealing with the assessment year 23, and the reference date would be 21.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I confused. I thought I heard it differently. My apologies. So I'm just going to switch. Well, then it's the same question in reverse. 38.26%. How did this expense rate not get altered dramatically due to the school tax credit?
I'm not sure.
just want to just double check what I was looking at here. Okay, okay, fine. I got it. Um, just oh, and the date on this, the effective date. Do you have that start date? Is it the full calendar year of 2023?
I believe so.
Okay, so this covers 2023 and 2024. Okay, and um, is this the was that the January 1st, 2023? Is that when this property was changed from land to apartment?
I believe I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to firm up these dates because on the page one you have the year built 2019 to 2022. I'm just wondering when it was opened up for business. Do you know?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure, but it's possible that this could have been built along with the other condominiums, and it could have been switched to it could have been changed to an apartment building years after it was built.
Okay, so you don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking because if it was whether or not there is any sort of consideration for an absorption period for new construction. Is there?
Is there an absorption period for new construction?
Yes, that's correct. That was my question.
What does that have to do with the information that I presented?
Well, the way that the assessment was made up, do you look at, you open the doors for business, do you treat it as that's full right away?
Typically, if it were to sell on the open market, it would probably sell as if it was full.
That's your opinion, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, Mr. Marks.
Just one, is there any underground parking or covered parking at this complex?
I don't believe so. We don't have any indoor parking on record.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Ms. Stevens.
I have no questions, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Marks took my question about the parking. It seems, I guess, unusual for a modern apartment to have fewer parking spots than units. Is there parking elsewhere on the property for the?
I'm not totally sure. Like I said, this property is actually comprised of 4 buildings that are probably like brother sister buildings, and those other 3 buildings are condominiums, and they all have a central parking area in between the 4 buildings. So I'm not sure if they share some parking spots or not.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So we'll turn to the applicant now. Mr. Neufeld, you didn't present a brief.
That's correct. Part was we missed the date, but partially because this is a new build. We had the same issue, and we chose to approach this property on the basis of a rebuttal on the assessor's information, and I have provided that. And
I will caution that any evidence that should be in your brief in chief is not properly rebuttal. Any new information, basically. Rebuttal will be dealing with the city's comparables or the city's cap.
That is correct. That is correct. And what I will try my very best to follow those rules, and I will rebut the city's income information. showing the actual, and I will give you a verbal estimate after when I'm finished, and I'll leave it with you. But now you made me think about another issue on your question on the question on parking. Okay.
Okay, let's Phoebe, is the rebuttal evidence in your in the SharePoint yet?
It should be there, just refresh it.
Okay, we'll take a quick look and let's just okay. Mr. Marks, Ms. Stevens, do you feel we need to go in camera to look at this evidence?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, we'll take a short break then, and the board will decide whether this is rebuttal or not. Okay.
Okay, and just for the record, whether however you treat it, I know I still have the opportunity to say things verbally as far as evidence goes. And I don't want to waste your time on this at all. And I would prefer we go ahead with it, and if you choose to disregard it later, that's fine. I'm personally, I have a time problem today, and I'd like to get going. And I think I got 5 minutes to present.
Oh,
It's not a big long thing, so.
I notice it just seems to be the tax bill
Well,
or the
there's a statement which we're not entering as so much as evidence, is more just in a way to illustrate what's wrong with the model.
Okay, let's just quickly caucus as a panel, and then we'll come
Sure.
back and.
Okay.
All right. The panel has looked at this evidence, and we believe that it is in fact new evidence. It's not anything that's in rebutting anything that's in the city's brief. So we won't consider it. But Mr. Neufeld, you can begin verbally.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not trying to play with the rules here. I just what was presented in there is I agree that it could be looked at it this way, so I'll just treat it verbally. So the property is newly built, and I actually show an occupancy date of February 1st, 22. And I think that this is the first date it was put on the roll, January 1st, 2023. The building is part of a larger complex of buildings. There's three buildings, but numerous titles, and actually, sorry, 5 buildings and numerous titles. The rest are all condominiums, separate condominium units. This particular property is one big condominium phase. So it is still a condominium title because it's part of the larger property. It is not a fee simple title. It is a strata title. The issue with that is it's rather a unique situation where an entire building is one phase of a condominium. And it has to be dealt with properly, because remember, as the numerous decisions that we've gone through with municipal boards say, we do have to consider restrictions on the title, whether they be public or private, as an impact on value. And that is one. I don't have a suggestion for you as to how to deal with it. So I won't waste too much time. The building itself is very, very low on land ratio. And the question that about the parking, just jogged my memory. Yeah, they park on the other units in the other areas, which is all under the same umbrella organization. The it's the same developer, so it's part of his project. This particular one on its own is very, very short on parking. And where that will impact it is on its ability to earn money. And the money doesn't go to the title, it goes to somebody else's title, which is why I wanted to show you in rebuttal that the problem with the assessor's workup, when you're short on parking, you don't have that as income. The expense ratio issue was the other thing. Again, I think this is rebuttal, but I'll present verbally. In 2022, the provincial government started a school tax credit program. They changed it from the old one, and the money then went directly to the owner of the multifamily unit rather than to the particular tenants through a tax credit program. It was took a few years to change, and this program was terminated at the beginning of 2025. So transactions that occurred between 22 and 24 have to be scrutinized for the impact of the school tax credit. The point is, it represents about a 5 to 6% point variation in the expense ratio for those points in time. And what that'll do is impact not just the model making, which obviously it's missed it entirely, but the cap rate issue. So properties before the tax credit would cap out differently than ones after, and then one has to make sure that you've taken it into account. The reason I put in the tax bill was to show you that this property didn't get the tax credit. I can tell you verbally, they did not get the tax credit as a new build. They weren't part of the program. As a result, their expense ratio is higher by 5 to 6 points on the overall rate. And I don't have much more else here. So our estimate, verbal estimate of the NOI, and this is for the startup years. So for the startup years, we did peek into the future, and the difference is about 11% on startup years versus stabilized years. So your first year absorption. Now, because it started in February of 22, everything we're talking about would be post-reference. But the 11% is not a market factor. That is a physical factor. That's how long it takes to fill up. Our estimate of the NOI is 546,925. And I realize I can't present that to you in writing, but that's what it is. In terms of the capitalization rate, while we don't agree, I would point out that the way it works in the market is that when you're absorbing, you've got an upside, and so the caps will be lower until it's fully absorbed. So the dispute on the cap rate won't be large, and we're still in it. So if you're using a pre-absorption NOI, then you know you've got an upside, so your cap is going to be lower. And the assessor pointed out 2390 McPhillips. That's exactly what happened with that building. That's why it capped so low, because it was still filling up artificially low. So no issue there. So the value then 546, 925. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right page here. I'm in 21. Again, no evidence to one way or another in the cap, but that equals 11,514,000.
And with what cap rate was that, Rocky?
I just used what the assessor had because I don't have anything different. So 4.75%. And I kind of agree with it for this period of um, of absorption.
Are you able to tell us the differences then between the assessor's numbers and yours? You've
Well,
gone with the same cap, so is it the expense ratio basically, or?
It's the rent and the expense ratio.
So what did you assign to those two? Do you have that?
I do. For the income, I was using 986,000. And the expense ratio would be, sorry. I clarify that. I saw the parking issue too late before I did my initial calculation. Let me just tell you, the income was actually 943,743. And then expenses would be 396,818 for a difference of a total of 546,925.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that your presentation?
That's it.
Okay, questions, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, just you're requesting a value of 11,514,000. That works out to about 179,000 per unit. Is that what you typically see new buildings transacting for in the market?
Nobody uses that rate per unit when you sell an apartment. It's based purely on income. It's a misleading concept to discuss it in those terms. Nobody cares. Yeah, the only time you will see a unit price
That
listed
wasn't my question.
the only time you'll see a unit price on a multifamily will be when it's a renovation project.
Okay. I mean, if you're not going to answer the question, then
No,
that's
I
fine.
answered the question. You don't use it. You can't answer. I can't validate your question by saying, what do I see? Because we don't care about it. It's not the right way to value.
That would be all my questions.
Okay, questions, Ms. Stevens?
No, Mr. Neufeld answered the questions I had already. Thank you.
Mr. Merckx?
Just one, traditionally aren't condos pre-sold before they start the build?
Yeah, the other buildings on the site were pre-sold. This is a condominium title. It's not condominium units inside the title.
So a condo sold as an apartment rented out?
Well, the title was made up in 5 phases. And so each phase then gets, when they do their registration, what they do with it is they register in the condo declaration the number of voting rights that each of these phases has. So phases 1, 2, and 3 were then taken and turned into individual units, and those voting rights were split into smaller chunks. And then the courtyard one has its own condominium right, and then this building has a joint condominium right, which is actually I think the tax bill shows the yes 25% of the voting right on the entire phase. So that's 4 apartment blocks, 3 separately sold condominium units. This one unit, one legal unit with rental units. Unique, different, and I've worked for this developer for quite a few years, and they come from another province where the tax authorities kind of understand that you can have multiple uses on the same title. Winnipeg is a little bit behind the times, a little inflexible on the tax side, but it makes a lot of sense the way they're doing it.
Okay. One other question regarding the parking. How do they get around not having enough parking for their building on site?
Because the condominium has parking elsewhere. So I'm not sure who gets the money on it, whether it's the condo corporation, a particular one. So they do collect rent on parking, but then they expense it out from their phase B to the other phases. And they have use of it, and it's under the same care and control of the main property owner, or of the
They're short 16s parking areas.
But if you got permission to use it, and remember that it's still under the same legal title, so that's how it's done. It's not off the title. It's
Plan. So it's an umbrella title for all four complexes.
Yeah. Thank you for those words. That's what I was searching for. Plan 63527 holds the entire. I think it's the acreage is land area. Oh, it's not even listed here. I think the acreage is 15 acres in total.
Are those the ones just off Transcona Boulevard?
They're off Ravelston.
Okay.
And they back onto La Jamodier.
Okay, I know the one for me. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, I have no questions, so let's move on to 2025, Mr. Wong.
Okay. The subject property is 60 Philip Lee Drive. The file number is 225-1. The roll number is 040-072-62820. And the roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $14,510,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 4 stories high. It's built in 2019 to 2022 and has 64 suites with 48 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is some information on the subject property, and on page 5, 6, and 7 are some interior photos and a layout of one of the units. On page 8 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,500 to get a potential income of $1,152,000. We use a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,122,000, and we use a 37% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $703,000. Capped at 4.85%, we have an estimated market value of $1,415,000, which is about $226,000 per unit. On page 9 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. And on the bottom of page 9 are some expense comparables that range from 33 to 42%, which supports the model's expense ratio of 37.3%. And on page 10 are some comparable sales that range from $265,000 a unit to $281,000 a unit. And these comparable sales support the assessed value at $227,000 per unit. Also, the square footage is the comparable square footages range from $266 a square foot to $321 a square foot, which supports the assessed $212 a square foot. On page 11 is information on how we derived our cap rates, and on page 12 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. And so once again, this property is a new property, so we didn't have any financial information to use for valuation, and we've used market parameters and market support for our valuation. The model rents, they're supported with rent comparables, as are the model expenses, and the model cap rate is supported by some comparable sales. And in the end, when you look at the overall value, at about 227,000 a unit, it is supported by market sales that range from about 215,000 a unit to 285,000 a unit. So the assessed value is well supported, and it appears to be a little on the maybe lower end of the range. So having said that, I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 14,510,000.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
I'm just not going to ask any repeats and assume that's been dealt with. But on for the particular reference year, April 1st, 2023, the site was open, correct?
The site was open?
Yeah, it was. They were renting units, right?
I believe so.
And were you able, now you put in here the pages 4 and onwards. This came from the official website, is that correct?
Yeah, it's listed on the top of page 4.
Right, Crocus Garden Rentals. Now this other one, Zillow.com. Why didn't you put that in? You've got a link here to it.
I think some of the pictures were from both.
Well, I'm looking at the link that you put in here. Zillow puts a rental rate here. Why didn't you put that in?
Because it's post-reference information.
It was open April 1st, 23, wasn't it?
I'm just saying that the information that was on the website was post-reference because it's current.
I'm reading the Zillow site, and it has old listings on here at $1,400 a unit, which makes the potential income extrapolated a fair bit lower than what you have. So I'm just wondering why you put the source of information on here. It was available to you, but instead of using it, you went with the model.
Information that you see on the website right now is not representative of April 1st, 2023. Does that make sense?
You should probably go to the Zillow link and see what it says. It's a history, price history.
I guess I didn't put the information in there. That's
Okay,
all.
well, it's your evidence, your link. That's all I'm getting at. You had some information that showed that the rent was lower than you put in. Okay, I don't have any other new questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Marks, questions?
No question for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Stevens?
No new questions from me either, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, again, your verbal brief.
That's it. It's not much different. Just the verbal numbers I'll have for you. I mentioned earlier that the previous one was an absorption period, and we know that it was 11% physically. So the potential income, our estimate was 1,047,554. And you'll find that that is pretty close to $1,400 a month as advertised in 2023. Expenses were 440,468, NOI 607,087, and consistent with I said earlier, the cap rate's got to be higher because you're absorbing and there's no more upside. Capitalization is all about, and it's a glib word, upside, but it's the truth. If you have the ability to increase your income, you cap lower. So once these units get absorbed, they don't cap lower, they cap higher because there's nowhere to go. So I'm just using a 5.25% on 607,087, 5.25. That is 11,564,000, rounded. 11,564, and one last thing to point out to you, on page 11 of the assessor's brief, are cap rates that he supplied on multifamily, and you'll note that the Collier's cap rate is a range of 5 to 6%. That fits in that range, and I am now the author of this information, so I don't like to see it abused. But on this case, I think we can say that 5 to 6% is the range for good quality apartments, and we've selected 525 at the lower end of the range. That's my presentation.
Questions, Mr. Wong?
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Stevens?
So you, between your two workups, you see that the building has not gained in value since the previous assessment.
No, and that's correct. And no real increase because we're in absorption period, and it can last. We have some buildings, new builds, where they've had taken 10 years to stabilize, but usually we use about 5 years. And an investor's not going to buy a building at a high rate until it's finally all absorbed, because they don't want to lose money the first year. So it's still in development. That's you kind of a stable amount. And it also depends on the investment window. If someone's got a long-term hold or a short-term hold. But it all goes back. I'm too long-winded an answer, I know. It all goes back to anticipation of are the rents going up? If they're going up, low cap. If they're at the top, medium cap. If they're going to go down, high cap.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Merckx?
Yes, just one. So how long a time frame are you looking at before everything's absolved and you're getting into a make money situation? If you will?
Well, okay, right now, last I spoke to them was in January, and they're still on that ratchet cycle. So they'll do 1 year terms with one free month. People move out, move to the next block. They're kind of targeting about 2027 to see it stabilize.
So they're looking at about a 6-year term then?
Yeah, like on the 6th year, probably most are seeing 5 years. All those ones on Sterling Lion, which are my clients, they're about 2019 vintage. They've now stable. They're not stabilized yet. Well, the newest one has been stabilized. Sorry, I'm getting confused. The oldest build one has stabilized finally, and it's I think 6 years old. Whereas the ones that got added later have not. They're clipping along at 10% vacancy. Well, the old one is now hit down at 3% vacancy. But then there's a problem one we saw on Ward Avenue that is, after 10 years, is still trying to stabilize. This is a good multifamily neighborhood, so we think it's going to be shorter rather than longer, and the rents aren't that high, so they've kept it affordable. That today 1,400 is affordable apparently, but if you're looking for $2,000 rents, then you're going to have a bigger problem. So those are the factors. Long story short, I think 5 years, 5-6 years is stable.
Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Okay. In terms of you saying there's no upside, in fact, there's no rent controls on new properties.
Well, yeah, there is no rent controls, and they do have the ability to change them, but then they face market resistance.
But
You know,
isn't that what happened with the Lady Joyce apartments?
the Lady Joyce was, yeah, that one. No, actually, this is a different story altogether since you brought it up. That was purchased by an investment company that has a real low return on investment to their investors. They advertise 2 to 3%. So for them, they thought it was a brilliant investment. And they're on also on, I think, a 10-year window for stabilization. So it fit in perfectly.
Okay.
They're kind of real tight on their information. So they're a private investment company that bought it. So
Okay, I've got no further questions. So thank you very much. We've now heard all items on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you again for your capable presentations.
thank you, and sorry about our evidence problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you.